What if Light Yagami had to discover the Joker's real name before Joker learned he was Kira? There are some matchups that feel unfair the second you hear them, and then there are matchups like this, where the more you think about it, the worse it gets for everybody involved. Because on one side, you have Light Yagami, a prodigy, a manipulator, a strategist, a man who can erase almost anyone on Earth without ever touching them. And on the other side, you have the Joker, a liar in human form, a walking psychological weapon, a man so unstable, so theatrical, and so intentionally unreadable that even trying to understand him can be dangerous. Now, at first glance, this might seem simple. Light has the Death Note. The Joker is a criminal. Light kills criminals. End of story. Except no, because this is one of the rare cases where Light's greatest weapon runs directly into one of the worst possible targets. Because the Death Note does not kill the Joker. It kills a person. A real person, with a real face and a real name. And when it comes to the Joker, that is exactly where the nightmare begins. Because under these rules, Light has never met anyone associated with the Joker, so there is no Harley Quinn shortcut, no Gordon connection, no Arkham insider already known to him, no lucky bridge through Batman's circle. Nothing. And if Joker figures out that Light is Kira before Light gets his name, Light dies immediately. No dramatic comeback, no last-second plan, no battlefield reversal. Because outside of the Death Note, Light is just a genius teenager standing in front of one of fiction's most dangerous murderers. And to make this even harder, Joker cannot just cheat by going to Batman. Batman either does not know who Kira is, or even if he suspects something, he is not going to help the Joker murder a kid. He would stop him. So this is not a fight. This is not even a normal detective battle. This is a race between two predators, where one needs perfect information and the other only needs one crack in the mask. So the question is, can Light Yagami figure out the Joker's real name before the Joker discovers that Light is Kira? And honestly, this matchup is way more dangerous for Light than people think. Light's problem starts with one brutal fact. Light does not beat people by overpowering them. He beats people by identifying them. That is what makes him terrifying. He doesn't need access to your home. He doesn't need to chase you through an alley. He doesn't need to win a fistfight. He doesn't need to survive some explosive final confrontation. He just needs a name, a face, a pen, a few seconds. That is all. But the Joker is almost designed to break that system, because Joker's public identity is not stable. It is not clean. It is not reliable. It is not safely stored in one neat file somewhere with a nice little label that says, "Hello, this is definitely the Joker's real legal name." No, the Joker's identity is a disaster zone. In some stories, his name is unknown. In others, it is contradictory. In others, the mystery is the point. And in many versions, the Joker himself actively pollutes every possible attempt to pin him down. Fake histories, fake names, fake confessions, unreliable testimony, broken records, conflicting psychological profiles, burned trails, manufactured mythology. And that is a horrible target for Light. Because Light thrives when reality is documented. Politicians have names, police officers have names, prisoners have names, investigators have names, criminals with records have names. The Joker has a legend, and legends are harder to write in a notebook. So right away, Light is in trouble. Because this is not just a matter of finding a hidden criminal. This is a matter of proving that behind all of the smoke, all of the lies, all of the theatrics, there is still one surviving thread that leads back to a real human identity. And if that thread no longer exists, then Light's greatest weapon suddenly becomes much less useful. But that does not mean Light is helpless. Because if there is one thing Light Yagami understands better than almost anyone, it is systems. patterns, institutions, pressure points, information chains, human reactions. Light does not need the obvious answer. He just needs the answer behind the answer. And that means he probably realizes something very quickly. He is not going to find the Joker's name by asking, "Who is the Joker?" He is going to find it by asking, "Who would know?" That changes everything. Because even someone like the Joker had to touch the system eventually. At some point, somebody arrested him, somebody processed him, somebody interviewed him, somebody transferred him, somebody examined him, somebody filed something, somebody sealed something, somebody archived something. Even if the data is incomplete, even if it is corrupted, even if it is buried, light only needs one hidden link to still be real. And once light starts thinking like that, the entire battle changes from mystery villain hunt to information extraction campaign. And that is much more his style. So, how would Light actually play this? Not emotionally, not dramatically, and definitely not publicly. Light's smartest move would be to treat the Joker not like an arch-enemy, but like a buried file. That is important, because the moment Light starts trying to challenge the Joker, he is already drifting into the Joker's territory. And that is where things get bad. The Joker lives on confrontation. He thrives on obsession. He loves it when somebody makes him the center of their emotional world. So Light cannot do that. He cannot make this personal. He cannot get pulled into some theatrical duel of egos. He has to make this cold. Very cold. He would begin by studying Gotham from a distance. Every broadcast, every hostage video, every known attack, every police response, every Arkham transfer, every public court incident, every media narrative, every pattern of escalation, every repeated type of victim, every weird recurring symbol in how Joker chooses to perform his crimes. Because even chaos leaves fingerprints when the same person keeps creating it. That is one of the biggest misunderstandings people have about the Joker. They hear chaos and assume unreadable. Not true. The Joker is unpredictable in the short term, but over time, he is extremely readable in what he values. Attention, humiliation, escalation, thematic irony, psychological torture, narrative symmetry. The pleasure of proving that everyone is weaker, uglier, and more fragile than they pretend to be. And Light is very good at reading what people value. That means he would not waste time trying to understand Joker emotionally. He would study him the way a scientist studies a dangerous chemical reaction. What causes expansion? What causes redirection? What causes pressure? What causes the environment around him to twitch? Because that environment is the real key. The Joker himself is smoke. His support network is not. And that is where Light becomes terrifying again. Because if Light cannot kill the Joker directly, yet, he can still start cutting into the world around him. Not recklessly. Not in a way that screams, "Hello, Joker, I'm investigating your true identity." That would be suicidal. No, Light would be selective, calculated. He would likely target peripheral figures connected to Joker's operations. Not just random henchmen, but people whose deaths might produce useful reactions. A corrupt records handler, a black market supplier, an Arkham employee with suspicious access, a crooked cop, an evidence mover, a finance runner. Somebody close enough to real information to matter, but not so central that the whole city instantly knows what game is being played. And then, Light watches. Who panics? Who hides? Who starts moving files? Who suddenly disappears? Who gets protected? Who becomes nervous? What office changes procedure? What archive becomes sensitive? Which old case stops being touched? Which institution reacts like it just got stabbed somewhere important? That is exactly how light hunts. He does not always chase the prey directly. Sometimes he poisons the ecosystem and follows the panic. And Gotham? Gotham is an ecosystem full of panic. So if there is a surviving paper trail attached to the Joker's real identity, Light has a believable path to finding it. Not by confronting the clown, but by watching which corners of the city flinch when invisible pressure starts building around him. Now here's where the Joker enters the picture. Because make no mistake, the Joker would absolutely notice Kira. How could he not? An invisible executioner killing criminals around the world? A smug, moral executioner turning judgment into spectacle? A self-appointed god deciding who gets to live and die from somewhere in the dark? That is basically catnip to the Joker. He would be fascinated, not morally outraged, not politically offended, fascinated. Because Kira is exactly the kind of person the Joker loves to break. Someone convinced of their own superiority. Someone who believes they stand above ordinary morality. Someone who thinks they are in control. That kind of person is a toy box to the Joker. So yes, he would become interested. But interest is not the same as identification. And this is where Joker has his own problem. Because the Joker is dangerous, but he is not L. He is not an elegant, world-class procedural investigator building airtight logical nets. That is not how he works. He works by destabilizing reality. He forces people to improvise. He turns systems against themselves. He creates pressure so intense that secrets start falling out. So his first move would probably not be, let me logically deduce that Light Yagami is Kira. His first move would be more like, let me provoke Kira until Kira reveals what kind of person he is. And that is still incredibly dangerous, because Joker is very good at turning ego into evidence. So what would Joker do? He would bait, constantly. He would create crimes that feel impossible to ignore. He would stage public spectacles. He would flood the media with false signals. He would use decoys, fake names, fake confessions, fake jokers, contradictory broadcasts. He might even create carefully timed incidents just to see how Kira responds. Does Kira punish instantly? Does he wait? Does he kill decoys? Does he target liars? Does he respond emotionally to mockery? Does he need verification? Does he punish public blasphemy against his image faster than ordinary crime? That is how Joker starts mapping the mind behind the invisible hand. And the scary part is, that can work. Because Light has always had one weakness that shows up the moment somebody insults his godhood. Pride. Light is brilliant, but he is not humble. He loves control. He loves being right. He loves the feeling of standing above everyone else and silently deciding their fate. And Joker would smell that eventually. He would not know Light's name yet. He would not know Light's address. He would not even know Light's age for sure. But if he realizes Kira is arrogant, reactive, image-conscious, and personally offended by disrespect, that is already progress. And against someone like Joker, progress is deadly. But Light actually has an advantage here most people miss. The Joker is great at breaking moral people. Batman has rules. Gordon has ideals. Dent had hope. Ordinary citizens have guilt, fear, family, shame, emotional thresholds. Joker attacks those. But Light? Light is not built like that. Light does not crack because innocent people are in danger in the same way most heroes do. He does not crumble under moral disgust. He is not going to have some heroic breakdown because Joker proved humanity is flawed. Light already thinks humanity is flawed. He already believes he should rule over it. That makes Joker's usual philosophical chaos attacks less effective. In other words, Joker can emotionally poison good people very easily. But Light is already poisoned, and that makes him harder to shake. At least, at first. So if this stays an information war, Light has a strong chance, because Joker's biggest strengths are psychological destabilization and moral corruption, and Light is already morally gone. That means the matchup comes down less to ideology and more to whether Joker can make Light behave like a man instead of a machine. And that is where the true battle happens. Because Light's winning strategy is simple in theory: stay boring, stay quiet, stay indirect, stay disciplined. Do not taunt Joker. Do not chase Joker personally. Do not make it feel like a rivalry. Do not reveal emotional investment. Do not get theatrical. Just quietly collapse the structures around him until the truth falls out. That is how Light wins. He wins by refusing the duel. And that is also why this is such a tense matchup. Because Joker wants the duel. He wants obsession. He wants tension. He wants the feeling that somebody out there is finally treating him as their chosen enemy. And if Light gives him that, even a little, he starts losing. Because the second Joker feels that Kira is not just punishing criminals, but specifically hunting him, the game changes. Now Joker is no longer just curious about Kira. Now he is alert. Now he starts asking a different question. Not, who is Kira in general, but who is the kind of person who would investigate me like this? That is a much scarier question, because now Joker is narrowing from the behavior outward. And once he starts narrowing, he does not need absolute certainty. He only needs enough suspicion to act violently. And that is really bad news for Light, because Light needs perfect information to win. The Joker does not. This is the most important asymmetry in the entire matchup. Light needs the real name, not a code name, not a rumor, not a fake psychiatric label, not the Joker, not Jack something maybe, not a half-remembered alias from a crooked cop. The real one, the actual one, the name that the Death Note will recognize as belonging to the man behind the painted grin. Joker does not need anything that exact. He just needs to realize this student, this family, this region, this police connection, this behavioral pattern, this person who keeps orbiting invisible judgment. That is enough. Because once Joker has a strong enough suspicion, Light is cooked. No supernatural shield, no combat skill, no backup plan in a straight-up confrontation. Just a very smart boy who has finally been noticed by the wrong monster. So this means the longer the battle goes, the worse it gets for Light. That is huge, because it means time is not neutral here. Time is pressure. And pressure helps the Joker more than it helps Light. And no, Batman does not save Light here. This is important. Batman might notice strange things happening. He might realize Joker-adjacent people are dying under bizarre circumstances. He might tighten security. He might monitor Arkham. He might investigate the pattern. He might even interfere with Joker's attempts to create mass chaos. But Batman is not a winning condition for Light. He is environmental turbulence. He makes Gotham harder to exploit, which hurts Light. He also makes Joker's biggest operations harder to execute, which hurts Joker. But Batman does not solve the core problem for Light. He does not hand over Joker's name. He does not sit down and say, "Here, Light, I did the homework for you." And he definitely does not help Joker kill Kira. So Batman is not the decider. The decider is whether the Joker's real identity can still be found before Joker realizes somebody invisible is hunting him specifically. That is the whole game. So, who wins? Here is the real answer. Light can win this, but only if he plays almost perfectly, and only if the Joker's real name still exists somewhere recoverable in Gotham's buried machinery. If there is still a surviving thread, an old intake, a protected archive, a hidden legal identity, a real piece of paper somewhere in the dark that still remembers who the Joker used to be, then Light has a genuine path. And honestly, it is a pretty scary one, because Light is better than Joker at disciplined information predation. He is colder, more methodical, more precise, less distractible when he chooses to be, and much better at turning one hidden fact into a death sentence. But if the Joker's identity has fully dissolved into myth, then the balance flips. Because now, Light's win condition becomes almost impossible, while Joker's win condition stays merely difficult. And difficult is workable for Joker, especially against someone as prideful as Light. Because the longer this goes, the more likely Light starts treating the Joker like a rival instead of a target. And the moment that happens, the Joker has him. Maybe not instantly, maybe not elegantly, maybe not with perfect certainty, but enough. Enough to strike, enough to gamble, enough to turn suspicion into murder. And under your rules, that is all he needs. Final verdict. So, in the end, if Gotham still remembers who the Joker really is, Light Yagami can probably get to that truth first and kill him. But if Gotham has forgotten, truly forgotten, then the Joker eventually wins. Because Light's victory requires exactness. The Joker's only requires discovery. And discovery is much easier to stumble into than a perfect name buried under years of madness. So this matchup does not come down to who is smarter in a vacuum. It comes down to one horrifying question. Is there still enough of a man left beneath the Joker for Light to write him down? If yes, the notebook closes and the clown dies. If no, then eventually, somewhere in the dark, the Joker figures out who has been watching him. And when that happens, Light Yagami does not get a second chance. He just gets the punchline.